Welcome to our webinar. Today we are talking about April 15th, the dreaded IRS deadline to file income tax returns. And you may not be ready. If you are not ready, you are not alone. A lot of people are not ready for April 15th. And today we are going to help you understand your options, what to do when April 15th is just around the corner and you are not quite ready to file your income tax yet. Now, in 2017, April 15th falls on a Saturday, so the actual deadline moves on Monday, and really not even on Monday, but on Tuesday, April 18th, due to a Washington, D.C. holiday celebrated on Monday. So you do have a few days extra in 2017, but we will still call it April 15th because that's what it's known by, April 15th, the tax deadline. We are going to talk about a few questions today. What is an IRS extension? We are going to discuss whether it's necessary. We are going to look at penalties and interest related to extensions, how to request an extension, how to estimate taxes that are due on April 15th. Is it safe to file an extension? We will discuss the difference between filing an incomplete return and filing an extension. And finally, we will talk about other April 15th deadlines besides filing an extension and filing your income tax return. So I am Michael Plux. I am known as a black belt in real estate taxation, and I wear those red gloves because we beat up the IRS so you don't have to. I'm in this business for 20 years. Our specialty is preparing tax returns and giving tax consultations to real estate business people. However, today our conversation is general. We are talking about any income tax returns and anybody who is facing April 15th deadline. So I'm going to say a few words about our company first, and then we'll talk about presentation itself. So again, I'm Michael Plux, black belt in real estate taxation. I have a federal license of an enrolled agent, meaning I'm licensed to represent people who have problems with the IRS. We are in this business since 1996. As I already mentioned, we work exclusively with real estate investors and realtors. That's our specialty for 20 years. And our slogan is we beat up the IRS so you don't have to. Our company is rated one of the top 3 tax firms in Houston, Texas, for the last 3 years, from 2014 to 2017, continuously. We have perfect rating on Yelp, perfect rating on Google, and we will be happy to help you deal with these issues. So let's go back to our presentation and start talking about what extensions are and what we can do about them. So first, what is an IRS extension? Everybody knows April 15th is the deadline, and when you are not ready, IRS gives you an option which is called automatic extension. Automatic does not sounds a little bit automatic sounds a little bit deceptive. Automatic means to me you don't have to do anything. No, you do. You do have to send them a little request. Request is called an extension. What it gives you 6 more months. So instead of April 15th, it becomes October 15th. So for 6 months, you can procrastinate a little more and extend your deadline to October 15th. So is it necessary to file that extension? The short answer is yes, it is. This is what happens. If you do not file a return or an extension on April 15th, technically you are breaking the rules, you are breaking the law, and Uncle Sam will not be very happy with you. But what does it mean he is not happy with you? What are the consequences? Well, if you end up getting a refund, really there are no adverse consequences. Because if you are getting a refund and you are waiting into the summer, into the fall, you will still get the same amount of refund. However, if you end up owing money to the IRS, the opposite situation, then it gets worse. If you don't have an extension, he will penalize you and penalize you heavily for missing the deadline. So in that respect, it's very necessary to send an extension form on April 15th or April 17th this year, April 18th, sorry, which is extended due to holidays and weekends in 2017. So I mentioned penalty as interest. It's often misunderstood, so let me show you on screen how it actually works, because it's important to understand. We are going to look right now into tax software, and in my tax software, we are going to look at a situation when you owe the IRS. If you look here on line 4, it says balance due is $1,000. Let's say that you owe 1,000 and you are going to finish your return not now, but on August 1st. So right now at the top we put on August 1st, we are going to file the return and pay the IRS $1,000. The issue is you are not going to pay just $1,000. What you are going to have is 3 different payments. You are going to have on line 7, it says total late payment penalty. It's $20. Then at the bottom of this form, it says you are going to pay the IRS some interest. Interest will be $15 if you wait until August 1st. But one part that people often don't realize is there is another penalty, which is called total late filing penalty. And that penalty is the biggest one of them. It's $205. Now look here, the box on my form says that extension is not filed. If the extension is filed, I'm going to check that box. That $205 disappeared. So what it means is if you file an extension, all you will have to pay is late payment penalty, which is $20, and interest, which is $12. That's $32. But if you don't have an extension, you will have $20 penalty, $15 interest, and $205 of late filing penalty. So instead of $32, you are going to pay $250. That's on 1,000. If you end up owing the IRS much bigger amount, let's say $10,000. If you owe 10,000, that penalty, late filing penalty, look here, becomes $1,800, almost 2,000. And filing the extension eliminates it completely. So depending on how much you owe, filing or not filing an extension can literally make thousands of dollars difference on your bottom line. So by all means, you always need to file an extension, because you cannot be sure at this point, if you are not finished preparing your return, do you owe money to the IRS or do they owe money to you? If you owe money, extension becomes crucial. So by all means, everybody do file that extension. And the next question is how. To file that extension, you need to do a form. It's a very simple form. I'll show you in a second on the screen. The form is known as Form 4868, and it looks very, very simple. When you look at that, okay, hold on just a second. Let me bring it up on screen. So that form will be very simple, and there are just a few lines, and those few lines on Form 4868 will ask you for your social security number, names, addresses, and amount of money that you expect to owe. You can leave those amounts blank, or you can complete them. Really, there is no penalty or no adverse consequences if you leave those numbers at zeros. The only time numbers matter if you are planning to make a preventive payment with April 15th extension. But how do you do that form? It's easy to download the form from the IRS website and complete it. However, I don't recommend that. There is much better way to do that. And what I suggest you do is you go on the IRS website, irs.gov, irs.government, and on that website, under hot topics right here, the first option says file by April 18th or get an extension. Once you click on that, the first option on screen says e-file your extension form. Notice the cost of filing that form. It's free. So once you click on that form through the IRS website, you get an option to send that extension form electronically at no charge. And this is what I strongly recommend everybody does. Because if you download form 4868 and complete it by hand, put it in an envelope, mail it to the IRS. You have no guarantee that the form arrives, that it's correctly processed, and later the IRS can claim that they never received the form. Even if you mail it certified mail, first there is a hassle of going to the post office and mailing that, and then still you might have trouble proving that you did find it. Why incur that trouble when the cost is free when you do it directly from the IRS website? So do that form, costs you nothing other than 5 minutes of your time. Next one, the form asks you to pay estimated amount of taxes due. How do you come up with estimated amount of taxes due if you have not finished your return? That's a good question, and I don't have a good answer. The best answer I can give you would be this: Google estimated tax calculators. You will find multiple websites, multiple calculators, which let you plug in some of your basic information, such as your W-2 forms, salary from jobs, all your other expenses and income, and those calculators will give you an estimate. Just be careful on which website you are going. I only suggest that you go to websites which you can recognize, which are backed up by major financial companies, because some of those links can actually lead you to places that are illegitimate, fraudulent, and only there to steal your identity. So it's not completely safe to go into those calculator websites unless you know that it's a website from a company such as Intuit company that does TurboTax or H&R Block, national franchise of tax preparation company, or Fidelity, which is mutual funds company. Like if it's one of the recognizable websites, it's safe. If you don't know who is behind that website, then don't do that. It can be dangerous. So next question is, we started talking about, is the extension safe? Extension itself is safe, very safe if you go through the IRS website. Estimating taxes can be unsafe if you go to questionable website. So be very careful if you use those calculators, which website you do. And another question which we often get is it safe from the IRS audit point of view? Does it mean that when you file an extension, you are likely to get audited because you are past the deadline? The answer is no. You are not more likely to get audited if you miss the IRS deadline and file an extension and file later in the year. In fact, some people maintain that it's safer to file tax return late in the year. I don't know about that. My experience of 20 years in the business says it makes no difference. If you are ready, you file now. If you are not ready, you file an extension and file and send your return when it's completed later. Do not make that decision based on an audit, because IRS audits, if you are unlucky to be selected by the IRS for an audit, they will happen 2 years from now anyway, way past all of the extensions and way past all of those artificial deadlines that you can set up for yourself. So the next question will be is, one option you have if you are in the process of preparing your tax return and you're almost done, you put information there, but it's not just quite finished, almost there. So can you just send a return, and let's assume what could be the situation. You entered everything except some partnership. If you participate in partnerships and some investments, you may be waiting for form known as K1, which is distribution of profits and expenses from a partnership or an S corporation for that matter. Chances are you don't have that form yet. Many of these companies have not completed their tax returns, so they haven't sent you K1s. And we have many clients who have everything ready except K1s. And the question is, can we just send a return, and later, when the form K1 comes, or some 1099 you are waiting for, or maybe you haven't verified all of your business expenses, still working on your bookkeeping and still looking for some of the missing receipts. So can you just send the return and later fix it? I do not recommend you do that. I very strongly tell you don't. Here is why. In the past, amending tax returns, which is the term for sending a return and then later fixing that, changing the number, it used to be more or less safe. It's not anymore. Lately, the IRS looks very unfavorably. If you had a return that you send and on that return it says, well, I owe you $500, and then you later amend it, and I'm saying, oh, wait a second, I don't owe you any money. You owe me 2,000 now when I fixed and found more deductions. Guys, it can be dangerous. Audit rate for amended returns is much higher than for original returns. So if your returns is not quite ready, don't send it. Send an extension, and then when you have all of your information finalized, then send just one return when it's completely ready and you won't have to amend it. So once again, do an extension, don't send the IRS an incomplete return. Besides, there is one more thing. We are all lazy from my experience, and if you send a return which was almost correct, there is a very high chance that you will never get around to fixing it anyway. So again, avoid sending incomplete return, hoping to later fix it and amend it. Just do an extension and send correct return once. And finally, one question that I promised to answer is about other IRS deadlines. What I'm talking about here is April 15th is not the only deadline that we have. I mean, it's not the only deadline that sending IRS extension is not the only thing that you need to worry about on April 15th. There are several other things, several other issues that may create a problem. And first is, okay, we just talked about you need on April 15th file 2016 personal extension. You need to pay taxes if you owe them, if you know you owe, because as we saw a few minutes ago, you will start getting interest and penalty after April 15th. Next is if you live in a state which has income tax. I'm in the state of Texas. We don't have state tax here. But if you live in a different state and you do have state income tax, for example, you're in California, New York, or any other state with state income tax, you also may need to file a separate state extension and make payment to the state. Some states recognize IRS extension. Some states don't and require you to file a separate form with the state. Make sure you check that. If you happen to have a C corporation on April 15th, you also need to file an extension for the C corporation. If you have an S corporation or a partnership, the deadline is already in the past. The deadline was March 15th. So unfortunately, it's already late. But for C corporation, deadline is April 15th again. Another very important deadline. You may be able to save your taxes by contributing money to a retirement account known as an IRA. You can only do it before April 15th. So if you are planning to file an extension, you can file an extension, but you have to contribute money to an IRA now, before April 15th. There are different types of IRAs, and the questions are, so will it help you on taxes? Are you eligible? Should I do traditional IRA or should I do Roth IRA? And all of these questions. Then they do not have simple answer. The only rule of thumb I can tell you would be this. Contribute maximum amount of money if you have those funds to a regular, traditional, non-Roth IRA. Non-Roth IRA. Normal contribution for an individual right now is $5,500, or if you are older, 65. So put that $5,500 in the traditional IRA now. If later you discover that you should not have done that it's too much, or you wanted a different type, you can fix that problem later. But if you don't contribute money now, it will be too late to do a contribution later. Two more deadlines will be this. Make quarterly estimated payments toward 2017 taxes. That means if you are self-employed, if you are working for yourself, run your own business, you are supposed to pay taxes to the IRS 4 times a year. And the deadline for the first payment towards 17 is also April 15th. And finally, if you have not filed your 2013 tax return, and unfortunately, we know a lot of people who have not yet filed their 2013 tax return, or if you did file that return, but now you realize that you have not prepared it in the best way. There are some mistakes, some opportunities overlooked. You can still go back and fix 2013 return, but April 15th again is the deadline. You will have to mail it no later than Tuesday, April 18th this year, because the deadline is extended, or in any normal year, it would be on April 15th. So that's the last of the deadlines that is important to know about April 15th. I'm going to bring it back on screen momentarily to repeat it. So on April 15th, we need to file 2017 personal extensions, paid estimated taxes for 16, possibly file a state extension and make payment if your state has a state income tax system. C corporation extension is also on April 15th. Contribute to an IRA, make quarterly estimated payment if you making quarterly payments for the current year, 2017, and also your chances to fix 2013 tax return and get a refund for that will expire on April 15th. It will be too late to ask for your money from 2013 after April 15th. So thank you for staying on our webinar. Again, I'm Michael Plux, black belt in real estate taxation, federally licensed enrolled agent. We're in this business for 20 years, working with real estate investors and realtors, and we beat up the IRS so you don't have to. Visit our website, read our blog, watch our videos, subscribe to our newsletter, and give us a call if we can help you beat up the IRS and reduce your income taxes. Thank you very much. Have a very successful year, make a lot of money, and be happy. Let us help if we can. Thank you.